Hulamin's full-year headline earnings per share fell 7% to 25 cents on dilution. Turnover increased by 20% to 6.9 billion rand due to strong performances in both Hulamin rolled products and Hulamin Extrusions. Africa's largest maker of aluminium products expects operating cost pressures to continue, most notably from rising energy prices and wage inflation. And gentlemen, it is a company that has come under pressure, but turnover is up. Is this a positive sign for you, Chris?
It's a positive sign. Look, to try and put this one into a bit of a nutshell, Hulamin, I like the company. I visited it just before they listed, what, 5 years ago down in Maritzburg. Excuse me. I think, though, it's a company that's going to always be at the mercy of extraneous factors. And you've mentioned a couple of them there. It's a company that needs to have a weak rand, basically. It's a company that needs to have a steady supply of aluminium and, as we saw in this set of results, liquefied petroleum gas as well. Yeah. So, you know, there are a number of factors outside of their control. As I say, I think a well-managed company, as well-managed as it possibly can be, given those kind of circumstances.
Yeah. So, Daniel, I mean, looking at the company as well, 50% hedge on the US dollar, they've actually kept this in place. And we also know that aluminium prices have been extremely volatile, mostly not working in their favor. And as Chris said, it's basically things that the company cannot really control.
Yeah, look, they do buy their aluminium from BHP Billiton, and the prices that they buy it at are from the LME, which is the London Mercantile Exchange. So yeah, they would add a margin on top of that. So it does get set. So it doesn't influence too heavily. But as you say, and as Chris says, I mean, the huge impact from the rand-dollar exchange rate. They've got, I think they sell to 60 different countries, and about between 70 and 75% of their sales are abroad. So, of course, a bulk of their earnings are in dollars, and they report in dollars, and therefore the rand exchange rate is crucial. So with a stronger rand, they really do happen to erode a lot of their profits. In fact, on their rolled products, they actually had an increase of turnover and revenue and profits, but it was eroded from a stronger rand. And the extrusions business was up. I think it was 14% for the period, and that's largely due to a large competitor that closed down in November of 2010. So I don't know how heavily you want to be relying on competitors closing down. You'd rather see more organic growth coming through.
What's also interesting, I mean, with regards to billets and rolling slab supplies, we know they've got their own facilities that are coming through, and then also on the older contract side of things, it seems that those now are starting, they're looking at shorter term contracts, which actually creates more price volatility for these companies, for the company, and they're actually sourcing from Australia and the Middle East, so they really have currency exposure here.
Oh, totally. That's why I say I don't have a problem with Hulamin per se in terms of the way the company is actually run. But again, you've mentioned another factor which is kind of beyond its control. Once you start, you know, insourcing all that kind of stuff, with all the attendant logistical problems that go with it, you know, it just makes the analysis of it that much more difficult.
Let's also just touch on what we saw on the extrusion side of things. Very depressed market, the company says, but they actually performed quite well despite this. We saw sales increasing by around 14%. It's off a relatively low base from the previous period.
Yeah, one also must remember that the extrusions relies largely on the construction sector.
Yeah.
A lot of their sales do go to the construction sector, and we'll be discussing Wilson Bailey Holmes and discussing how subdued or how really horrid the whole sector has been and difficult. So yeah, look, the extrusion sector has performed relatively well. They have closed one of their extrusion smelters, or one of their extrusion
they say a competitor actually.
Yeah, no, but they closed one of their own extrusions in Cape Town. So I don't know how good that business is going forward. I mean, the other side of the business, the rolled products, is really the dominant part of their business, their main stream of revenues coming through.
Hot or not for you, Daniel?
The CEO is a really nice guy, Richard Jacob. I think the share price has been fairly dismal. Technically, it's been in a very long sideways to downtrend, trading around the 8 Rand mark, 8 Rand 20 odd Rand. I'd like to see it break 10 Rand to get any bullish. For me, it's not hot. I'm not hot on the stock. It's fairly unexciting at the moment. One of the biggest aluminium producers in Africa, but we need to see more action. We need to see better earnings. We need to see
performing far better than a lot of the construction companies.
That's quite correct.
Yeah. Share only down 7%. We've seen far bigger numbers.
Well, look, if the rand were to weaken, and I don't think that the rand will weaken further or a lot further at all. So for me, you know, they need a weak rand to really get earnings going. So I'm mixed on this one.
Chris, hot or not for you?
Unfortunately, not hot. This has been a real dog for the past 4 or 5 years. Not because it's a bad company, because it's a very good company. But as I've said before, I think because it's subject to so many of these unquantifiable variables, I can't get excited about it in the short term.